Well, good evening, treasure hunters. Welcome into the David Paisano Show. Tonight I'm going to give you my final thoughts on the Jon Collins Black Appalachian Trail treasure location. For those who have watched my program in the past, you'll know that I'm kind of one of these people that read the books, come up with solve ideas, and then go boots on the ground. And I referenced my boots on the ground activity in the preface to this video. So if you want to actually see me on the ground, unlike some treasure hunters, I have provided video of me being out looking for the Jon Collins Black treasure. Now, tonight's program, we're talking about the Appalachian Trail. I'm going to do a full review of the information after I give you my location. Now, I personally feel that the clues in this chapter lead you to a place in North Carolina between Boone and Blowing Rock. Okay? And I went to a place that's called Sterling Creek Park and recorded a couple of videos. This location is close to a place called Mystery Hill. And Mystery Hill is one of these places where you can look at displays that have to do with gravity. You can also look at a bear that sits out in front. You can also look at some old time photography. And I encapsulated a video of this. Now, if you actually look at this box itself, you've got this blue appearance to it. You've got this S and the C that's in the cursive writing on the front of the box. So is that to me Sterling Creek? Why is there a definitive C and an S on the front of the box? Why does the box itself look like an old-time camera? That's right. This is, if you would turn this on the side, would be an old-time camera. It's basically the way in which an old-time camera looks. Now, there is also these little screw details that are little plates that are put in place. And stylistically, look at the font of the color of the gold. And you can then compare this to the video where I took some actual on-the-ground video of the Tweetsie Railroad and the way in which the Tweetsie Railroad is designed, if you will. So let's just read this chapter, the Appalachian Footpath Box. Walk in a rainbow trail, walk on a trail of song, and all above you will be beauty. There is a way out of every dark mist over a rainbow trail. Now, of course, a rainbow trail would be a trail of many colors, if you will. A rainbow would be shaped like this, right? So somewhere along the trail, you should encounter a rainbow shape, if you will. And therefore, I think you're looking at a couple of clues in that. The Appalachian Trail stretches over a total of 14 U.S. states, cutting across almost 2,000 miles of public land. This pathway is the longest hiking-only trail in the world, one that, if you chose to complete, would take you through an incredible 450,000 feet of elevation changes, end to end. Starting at Springer Mountain, Georgia, it is a beautiful, romantic, sometimes mystical trail. Now, I'm talking about Mystery Hill as the solved location, and he's describing a mystical trail. Crossing over bald hills, okay, so you want to have at least one balding in here. Blue Mountains, okay, Blue Mountains, what's better than the Blue Mountain Range, right? Mossy, jungle-like forests, and onto the rugged landscape of the White Mountains. Now, the White Mountains are basically at the other end, if you will, of the end to end. Because one of the more famous parts of the Appalachian Trail transverses through the Blue Ridge Mountains near Asheville, North Carolina. I had fairly close access to the trail as a child. When I traveled along its soft pressed ground, I took in the smell of dogwoods, rhododendron, and mountain laurel, while serenaded by the ambient sounds of slight breezes, scurrying squirrels, birds, crickets, and cicadas rubbing their wings. The trail provided me with quiet joy, one of the few things that did so during my teenage years. Looking back, I said that even a part of me realized something about the Appalachian Trail long before I was consciously aware of it. This would be a magical place to leave a treasure. Okay, so this is the second time he talked about mystery and magic. So I think that you now have the word basically repeated twice, right? And all of this deals with the mysterious, the mystic, if you will. Definitely the most ornate of all of our treasure boxes. This puzzle box is carved from steel, carbon steel, stainless steel, and brass. Every detail is meticulously handcrafted. Now, perhaps the most remarkable thing about this treasure box is the technique Seth Gould used to create its blue steel. Now, for those who have followed along with this treasure hunt, you'll also know that Seth Gould is mentioned earlier in the book. He's introduced as the person that created these treasure boxes. Proximately wise, Seth Gould lives close to the Asheville area. So, for context, you have John's knowledge of the area. You also have the artist involved in the project. Would Jon Comers have visited this man to talk about his designs for his boxes? Quite possibly. Would he have been hiding a treasure at that very time in which he was doing that? Quite possibly. So I point that out as an additional factor in why I think that this chapter is telling you about things that are close to Asheville, things that are close to his growing up. Seth originally showed me a simple blue bolt he had made and suggested adding some of this blue color to accent one of our boxes. I love the rich hue so much, I asked if Seth could make it a prominent feature. Okay, so I think there's going to be some blue prominent feature in the area. Now, if you watch my video, you'll see that there's this really, really tall pole, if you will. And this pole holds up a bunch of guide wires, and it's a prominent feature, and it's got a blue hue to it, okay? So if you looked at that as your pointing part of where you set your little coin down, if you will, and then look around in that area, if you use that as the point marker where you set yourself down, and then you take a radial off of that, you'll get to the location that I discovered within Sterling Creek Park. Seth, okay, I love the hue so much I asked if Seth could make it a prominent feature. Always reticent to overpromise, Seth said he had never attempted the bluing technique on a larger piece of metal, and he didn't know if he could or if it would take. But when I saw the treasure box in person for the first time, I was amazed. The color was stunning. Okay, remember I alluded to the fact that he probably saw these treasure boxes were involved in the design process? This is telling you that the only way in which you can have Seth showing you a bluing technique is to actually be at his studio. I suppose he could have recorded a video, or they could have done a Skype, or they could have done some sort of thing. But to actually see it in person, I think he had to have been in the area. The box is also unique. It is the only one of our 5 boxes that is both a combination lock and a puzzle box. As with the other boxes, I have left for you the exact instructions for opening the box in case you want to help getting inside. As for what specific items I put inside this treasure box, I'd rather not say, but I will share one fact with you. Of all of these 4 boxes, this box contains more items featured in the main chapters of this book than any other. To me, the variety of treasure items inside this box is in keeping with the elaborate style of its ornate design. I hope they bring you joy. In the previous 3 chapters, I shared with you a poem, a fictional story inspired by a childhood adventure, and a few games. With this chapter, we've come full circle from where this book began. Well, if you grew up in North Carolina, the only place in which this book could have actually began was in North Carolina. I leave you now with something more traditional, an object inspired by watching my son drawing on some paper in his room some time ago. I made a treasure map for you. This is the first real treasure map I've ever created. I asked you not to judge it harshly. Should I have made the path to this treasure's location less obvious? Well, perhaps. But what is done is done. And since I basically admitted to you that this treasure is somewhere along the Appalachian Trail, all that's left is for you to do is follow this map. Have fun, my friend. Your treasure awaits. And then down at the bottom it says Seth also created blue steel on the back of the commemorative coin for this box. So he's now calling these things commemorative coins, if you will, for the boxes. So, I don't know. Maybe you're just looking for that commemorative coin. In all these scenarios, maybe you're just looking for this commemorative coin. I don't know. But that's where I'm going with this. So then he gives you a map with a dial compass on it and various and sundry things on it. And, it's got a trail that looks like a sock puppet. And most people, have digressed this map, dissected it, turned it upside down, turn it 5 directions and rotate it 5 ways. And, to me, I see this as a daguerreotype photograph of the area, an old time photo, if you will, which they have at the Mystery Hill. I see a guy that looks like Daniel Boone at the top. So I'm going to put Daniel Boone on my map, or Boone, if you will. I then see a skier, so I'm going to spot some ski slopes. Now, one thing about it is a skier, in order to actually ski downhill, which is the position of the skis in this situation, has to do with gravity, and that you have to go downhill. You also see these 2 cone structures on here, right? Well, those triangles, and then you also have a tree that's in a magnifying glass. Well, I have long believed that this puzzle is about gravity, and that if you have a magnifying glass with a tree in it, and you have it looking like a magnifying glass, I would say this has to do with optics. Sir Isaac Newton had a couple of things that were fairly prominent, and one of those things is the whole story about the apple falling off a tree. There is an apple basket here, by the way, coincidentally, collecting all those apples that have fallen off of trees. You have a skier that's going downhill. You have a bald man, or they're calling this a bald man, right? There is also a feather, right? Well, feathers, all of these objects have to do with gravity, as well as the 2 starting and ending points, the prisms, if you will, because the prisms were another big part of Sir Isaac Newton. Some people have found the date in which Sir Isaac Newton died in this puzzle area, right? In this poem, or in this diagram. So if you add that, some people have found a bolt of fabric, if you will. And I'm pretty sure there was linen mills in this area of the Carolinas. And then when you get down to this compass, I actually see a train. I see a train in the middle of that compass. And the train that I see is the train that's at the Tweetsie Railroad. I also see part of the Tweetsie Railroad line in the actual puppet figure design of the railroad map. And if you look really, really close, each of those dashed lines that form that railroad track, if you will, the path, if you look really, really close, those are fig Newtons. Yeah, those are fig Newtons. It's just a bunch of fig Newtons laid out. Okay, I had to really strain my eyes for that. Thought it would be funny too, so I just thought I'd add that in. But you've got a butterfly, you've got a shell. The Springer Spaniel dog is another reference to gravity and its ears. And so, if you consider that all of the things that are in this puzzle have to do with gravity and the actual date is in there, I would say that that would give you reason to potentially look at a solved location that has to do with those things. One of the things that you can experience at the Gravity Hill is the water running up the opposite direction. A fountain pen, again, is another one of these things. And so when I went to Sterling Creek Park, I was able to uncover the bumblebee, which would be the last of the items that would indeed cause that. And if you look very, very close at this eye, it's actually the coin. It's that blue coin. This thing was never made to be to scale, right? And you have to look very, very close. But if you look at that, it's that blue coin. All right, folks. So that's my ideas on the Appalachian Trail with a couple of boots on the ground videos to give you actual context for my solve. I'm not going to be that person that puts out a solve and doesn't back it up with actual boots on the ground and with actual items that were captured along the way. All right, well, we had a few people join in. It looks like Jeff's here, Luli's here, the Jeep girl Jody, the kid. Got a few folks straying on over to look at this presentation. And anyway, I'm basically going to put down the book on the Appalachian Trail, unless I come up with some new ideas. It was a 2,000-mile drive for me to go to that location and look for that. And I think I put my boots on the ground. I did my best effort for it. And I guess if somebody else finds it, then hooray, good for them. But I'm not going to stay on any longer. I just wanted to put together this video to wrap up my experience with the Appalachian Trail box and the Jon Comers Black treasure hunt. I appreciate everybody that joined in tonight. I'm going to sign off. I do appreciate jumping in, but again, I'll be on tomorrow night for the regular David Paisano show, where I will again take on another one of these treasures. I might be back on in about a half an hour and do a show on the Jon Comers Black Pokemon box so that I can get that one out of the way as well. So look for that.